Hello and welcome to another video. In this video I'm going to be talking about graphite. Now I've always been I haven't really taken my graphite that seriously. I've used it to sketch since I was a kid. I've always loved it. It's really a lovely tool, but I've not really taken it seriously and I've always been a little bit slapdash with it until now. So I've started to think about it in the same way that I think about my coloured pencil work. How can I make the fur look softer? How can I make it more realistic? What are the things that I'm really struggling with and what's not quite looking right about the piece? I always try and think of one objective with every piece that I create, and that is soft fur. What am I missing? What am I not doing with the graphite? Now, graphite is a little bit of a different technique to coloured pencil, but there are a lot of things that cross over. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about how to create this kind of soft fur, this textured fur with graphite in a way that makes it look realistic and also is really enjoyable, really fun to do. And I've got to say, it's really upped my game when it comes to graphite. When I look at a piece now, I'm a lot happier with it. It always used to look a little bit amateur, a little bit unfinished, and I really didn't know why. So I'm going to share with you what I've learnt, the new techniques, and hopefully you can apply those to your own work and start to see some serious results. So let's get into the video. I really hope you enjoy it. I start with a base layer. I use a 2B or an HB, and I'm just thinking about the direction of the fur a little bit, not worrying too much because we're going to be blending as much as we can in the first layer to make sure that we're getting a really smooth base. And this is the trick. This is the difference between what I was doing before, making sure that we blend enough. I just roughly put in the ear. I think I might do another video on that. If you would like it, let me know. I'm just going over the areas that are a little bit darker with the same pencil. I'm just going over a couple more times, so adding a few more layers. You can see the graininess of the paper here quite well, and I'm just making sure that I'm getting enough graphite dust down that I'm going to be able to blend it. So thinking about the direction of the fur a little bit, but not worrying too much. I'm not pressing very hard, a really light hand. I'm just filling in all of those kind of troughs of the paper, mapping in some of the darker areas just so that I know where I am, because I think it's really important if you walk away from a drawing to know where to come back. So filling in all of the paper, making sure I'm getting lots down, covering it over. This is the difference between graphite and coloured pencil, because I tend to work in tiny sections, whereas this, we're working in bigger sections and then blending. So this is a blending stump, Tortillion. It's a great one from Faber-Castell. It's really thick, and you can see that I'm actually blending in the opposite direction of the fur. Now, this is a really good tip, using big circles too, because what you're trying to do is really soften the pencil strokes. I'm going in every direction. I'm not just following the direction of the fur. What I'm trying to do is get a really good soft base layer. You're still going to see the graininess to a point, and you might need to add another layer, but what you're doing is trying to get that really lovely smooth look. It's a completely different thing to missing out this blending. The pencils won't blend themselves in the same way that coloured pencils do. You actually need to go in. Going in with my Tombow and just lifting up some of the highlighted hairs. Now, this is really important with graphite as well. You end up taking out as much as you're putting in. I'm going in with the 2B, and I'm just adding a few of the fur directions with the longer hair going into the ear. Again, I'm not pressing very hard. I'm just going over the same areas a couple of times with the same pencil if I want to go darker. I'm not pressing any harder. I've got lots of pencils at my disposal, so what I'll do is I'll just work up through the pencils a little bit like we do light to dark. In coloured pencils, I work up the different grades of pencil, so it goes all the way from HB to 14B, which is absolutely amazing. Going in with the 2B now, and I'm going to be adding little fur strokes over the whole of the area of the fur. Now I'm following the direction of the fur, and I'm just adding tiny little pencil strokes to indicate fur. I'm not pressing very hard. I'm thinking about the length of the pencil strokes. That's really important. I know that you might find that it gets a little bit hard in your hand or a little bit boring, but it's really important not to lengthen those pencil strokes, and then it will just look really shaggy. The length of the pencil stroke is really important. Just changing the technique if it's slightly softer, longer fur, darker at the bottom, and then adding a lighter hand as you go up towards the top. I'm going over some areas again, Still using the 2B, but if there are darker hairs, then I'm just going over the area a couple more times. If it's a little bit more sparse, what I'm doing is just spacing out the pencil strokes. So I'm not pressing any harder, I'm just spacing them out. If I want to go darker, I'll put more pencil strokes within that area. You can see I'm curving around the eye now, following the direction of the fur. It's really important. It's like a kind of clock. It fans out around the eyes, and that's important because it will draw the eye. Again, if I need to add darkness, I will just go over the same area a couple more times, and I've done this over the whole thing now, you can see. And here you can see a really good example of going over a couple more times and back to blending. But this time I'm not blending as hard. So I'm gently, lightly going over, and what I'm doing is just softening the pencil strokes so they're not as harsh, and then allowing myself to feel the graininess of the paper just a little bit more. But every time you go in, you want to blend a little bit lighter. You don't want to completely undo everything that you've done. Going in with a 4B now, and you can see this is starting to get darker, and I'm adding little darker hairs all over. In some areas it was a little bit darker. Through the middle there was a dark patch, as you can see in the reference photo. So I'm fanning the hairs out in that darker area, but I'm just making sure that I'm going over some of the lighter areas as well. It's the only way to pull that drawing together. If you leave out the dark hairs within the light areas, it just looks really stripy. So you need to pull the drawing together, make it look much more cohesive if you add little dark hairs within the light. This fur is very multicolored. There's lots of different colors going on. Obviously you can't show that with graphite. It's monotone. Blending again, nice and lightly, you can see, really gently over the whole thing. And then just going back in and adding some darker fur into the areas that need it, especially down through the middle. Still thinking about the length of the pencil, not making it any longer, because this is a shorter fur right through the middle of the head, and I'm just adding a few more pencil strokes where there needs to be a little bit of darkness. Now, using my needle eraser, sorry for the paint on my fingernail, art is life, I'm just lifting up some of the lighter areas. You can see there's light areas either side of that middle section, and the kneadable eraser is amazing for this because you're just lifting up a little bit, making sure that you're using this as a technique. Lifting up just as much as you're putting down is a really valuable technique to use. Going in with the 12B now, I'm leaving the 14B to the very end and just darkening up some of the areas through the middle that need it. If there are stripes within the fur, I'm just going over a few more times, and you can see that natural clumps are being added now. Still using the 12B and filling in any dark hairs within the light, making sure I'm following the direction of the fur, fanning it out around the head, and adding some lighter, some darker strokes to the light areas of the fur too, as I said, to pull it all together and create a cohesive look. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found that enjoyable and you can apply those techniques and tips to your own work and start seeing a real difference in your graphite. If you did like this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you want to see the full tutorial of this wolf, it is available on my Patreon channel. I will leave the link in the description down below. There's loads of tutorials already on there, and coloured pencil, watercolour pencil, pastel pencil, and of course graphite. Over 30 to choose from. So I would love for you to join that community if it's something that will suit you. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Lots of love. Bye for now.